Okay, and we're live.
Yes, and welcome to the first Arthouse Showdown, uh, featuring Jonah Lobster
Hi, folks.
and Movie Dude Eric.
Hello.
Yes. And tonight will be the two of these people, my co-hosts, my podcast, uh, Galaxy Quest and Silent Running. And if you'd care to make an introduction,
Well, we want to do a coin toss to determine who
like
goes
in the
first.
air, I'm about ready to flip.
And
Yes, yes.
Actually, I'm having a hard time getting my notes up. So,
okay. Well,
uh,
Oh,
I think we'll take a minute to let the audience kind of catch up. And so we just went live. And so if you're watching on Hangout on air, you can chat right in the chat here at the corner of your screen. If you're on GonnaGeek.com, the live site, there's a live chat over there. And also that's being moderated by Chris from a number of Gonna Geek podcasts. And
yay, Chris, our chief engineer of the day.
we are hoping that as we get towards the end of the debate, we'll have some questions from the audience. So Kent's prepared a number of questions as our moderator, and we're also hoping to sort of augment that with the audience. So if you do think of something, be sure and let him know either in the live chat or by tweeting at him or somehow.
Yay! Okay, yeah. Let me, okay. Let me go ahead and do the ceremonial coin flip anyway.
All right, and we agreed that I would call it, so I will
You get
call
to call it, so call!
tails.
It is heads.
Okay. So
and I still can't get my notes up.
Uh-oh. Would you like to defer then?
no, he can't defer. He has to go first.
He's having technical issues.
That's okay.
May have to make him defer.
So what we can do is right now we can talk about some of the other podcasts that we're all involved in. Obviously, if you're here because
yes.
of Arthouse Legends, which is the main podcast that we're on, where we talk about movies, and so the debate format is kind of like it's an art house movie being represented by Eric, a classic science fiction film, and a more modern, ostensibly a studio, big production, Galaxy Quest, represented by me. Kent's in the middle as moderator, and this is, of course, open to the entire Gonna Geek community of listeners, fans, and hosts.
I would be waving at the camera saying hi if my camera wasn't causing issues
Yeah,
with the stream.
it's like there's only so much bandwidth that we can actually use up to actually put this production on. So we figure it's more important that you see the two competitors, as Eric was saying before the show, sort of Kennedy versus Nixon style, just to see who looks better. And we'll kind of
which one's Kennedy and which one's Nixon? You both Kennedy.
Just be like, I think Lobster's the hairy one. We'll put it that way.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Yeah.
Hey, you went there, not me.
Okay. Back to the debate. Are your notes up?
Actually, I have a feeling that my system's about to crash again.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
Well, Lobster, you have 3 minutes of opening arguments. Feel free to begin, just in case he crashes.
I don't want to give them while he's crashing, and then...
Hold on. Let me try to figure this out. I'm so sorry, everybody.
In all fairness, we'll take our time and do this right.
Yeah, just a second. I'll get this all worked out.
Work on those questions, audience. Come up with some good ones to really make us think about these two movies.
Oh no! Here we go.
Yeah, we should have had some cool theme music to play while we're just like, sitting here.
Yeah, I don't even have anything good on iTunes on the machine I'm using right now.
Yeah, there's not really anything that like I'd have to like loop it back through or something. But
what would happen if you played the Galaxy Quest theme on top of some Joan Baez?
Your brain would explode, maybe. I don't know.
It's just like The Dark Side of the Moon and Wizard of Oz.
Play it back. Oh shit.
Oh. Language. 5 points from.
He wasn't here to hear it. Eric wasn't here to hear it, so it doesn't count.
I am the moderator. I can say 5 points from Gryffindor. I think you're Gryffindor. I don't know.
Wait, no, I'm totally Hufflepuff, and you know it.
Oh, he admit. Okay. It's kind of rare to see Hufflepuff admitters, so.
Why would you not?
I don't know.
They're awesome. Their sigil is a honey badger. Come on.
5 points awesome. 5 points for not wearing yellow today.
Wait, or
is your shirt? Actually, let's see your shirt again.
It
does say Trekkie on it, so
it does.
Yes, if it were in yellow though, okay, it would be Hufflepuffy. But
I might be wearing yellow somewhere.
Your socks may count.
No, I'm not wearing socks.
Yeah, it is 50 degrees finally up here in the Great White Great Northern areas today.
At least indoors.
Actually, outdoors are hit above 50 here. So hopefully in a day or two you'll get that same weather. For those of you at home, yes, we get weather about a day before Lobster does. Which is very handy in the winter to tell Lobster, yeah, we just got 12 inches of snow. You should expect crap in the next 24 hours.
Yep. Well.
I wish I knew what was actually wrong with Eric's machine. He said it was a Skype. Stuff with Skype?
Yeah.
Because when my Skype updated, it didn't detect anything unusual.
So I'm going to give a shout out to Stargate Pioneer in the live chat and Jeannie in the live chat. Hello.
Oh, hey.
We haven't officially started yet because of some technical difficulties, but we are taking audience questions. So if you have a question for our moderator to pose to one of us later in the debate, you can go ahead and drop that in the chat, and we'll pick up on it. And we're still in the setting up phase, I think. We had everything set, and then
then stuff happened. That was bad. Very so bad. Okay, here we go. Where is the live chat? Does it open for me?
And I signed in with my Google Plus account, and it came right up.
I'm on my, well, it should.
I mean, if you're already signed in your browser, it should come right up.
I'm not doing it in my browser. I'm doing it in, I'm doing it on my tablet instead of on the machine here because I don't want it to crash. So. Actually, it may not be compatible. It may not work on this tablet anyway since it's a plug-in.
To answer a question in the group chat, we're not only taking questions from Chatwing, but that's probably the easiest way to get them to us because we're kind of focused on making sure that the Hangout software and stuff runs correctly. We're not trying to check our Twitter feeds and stuff during the debate. So
any tweets directed to me should show up to me.
Kent says he can get them, so.
Well, they should hear me in chat, right? Or...
oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah.
What he said. Now, is Chatwing named after Nightwing? I wonder.
Probably not.
And in that case, because it's Wouldn't it be Catwing? Not only because you dropped the H, but because chat
It's
is
French. Yeah, le
Yeah.
chat. La chat. Yes. Is it la or le? Can't remember if a cat is masculine or feminine. I think it's feminine. I don't know. It's been.
What's the website for the viewing audience that might not be in the chat?
Isn't it still GonnaGeek.com/live? You could. There's still a feed there.
Right. There's a feed on the GonnaGeek site, and in your Google Plus account, you can find it on Hangouts on Air, or by going to the GonnaGeek plus GonnaGeek page, I think. Does that help? I don't know. Whether that helps or not.
It may help somebody, and helping is half the battle. Right. Let's see. So anyway, nobody around here can drink the water right now. Well, you can technically, but it all smells like chlorine, and they're saying it's because of the runoff from all the snow melting.
Hello. Sorry.
Oh.
Hey.
Hey.
I am almost there. Things are at least looking like they're working now.
Things are looking up.
Just waiting for my notes to come up right quick. And then we'll get started with this debate, shall we? So, Movie Dude Eric, silent running here. Sorry about this whole debacle, but we're about to have ourselves some fun.
It's not technology if there isn't a debacle.
Right. At least none of us have turned inside out.
That's true.
Yet.
So, alright, hold on just a second. Let me grab a note.
So, by right of coin toss, Eric's going to go first. Kent is our moderator, and we are taking questions from the audience for later in the debate. Kent has prepared some, and so we're going to do opening statements. We're going to do a little synopsis of each movie. We're going to synopsize each other's movies, to kind of give set the tone for what we thought of it, and then we're rolling.
Yep. All right. So just one second.
I have the timer about ready to go.
Okay. Just 1 second. Come on. It's pulling up. It's just taking its sweet time. You know how them PCs love to work, especially with Justin Long.
Yes.
You know, kind of telling us how we're not supposed to. But okay. Come on.
He's a Mac, and he's in one of the movies being discussed. This is for Stroll.
Yes.
Very shocking.
Yes.
Which means silent running needed Hodgman, but wait a minute, he wasn't. Well,
he does. Hodgman actually references it in one of his books, so there is a connection, believe it or not.
Is there something Hodgman does not reference ever?
Probably not, but
yes. I mean, in one of his Judge John Hodgmans, he quoted himself from Battlestar Galactica.
Nice.
And nobody got it.
Oh wow!
I believe that's the same episode where Jaina Spenson recommends Galaxy Quest as the perfect entry-level sci-fi movie.
We'll be talking about that in just a second. All right, I got my notes.
Okay.
I'm ready to do this.
Your notes are up. Are you ready for opening arguments?
Yes, I am.
3 minutes. Once again, John Lobster and Movie Dude Eric. Begin.
I am the Movie Dude Eric. I am here for Silent Running. In the late 1960s, Douglas Trumbull worked with Stanley Kubrick to make 2001: A Space Odyssey as his visual effects guy. He created revolutionary effects, models, and techniques that made it possible to make more realistic science fiction movies. After he worked on this movie, he was allowed to make his own. He decided to create a completely original story about a man who tries to protect the last remaining plant life from Earth from the total destruction on board a spaceship. That film is Silent Running. Now, Silent Running would be the basis of most visual effects from Star Wars to Star Trek to Alien. Not only that, but it actually used real science and gives us our first glimpse of what robots would realistically be like, even as it's trying to convey ideas about our ecology and the nature of humanity. Now, Silent Running was a star turn for two-time Oscar-nominated actor Bruce Dern, who plays a surprisingly complex anti-hero whose mission is commendable even if his tactics are not. Not only have science fiction filmmakers been inspired by Silent Running, but it is also known to be the inspiration of Mystery Science Theater 3000. And even more awesome is how during its cult status, as it's running its cult status, indie bands like 65 Days of Static were inspired completely to completely rescore the film for fun, and you can find those results on YouTube. Now, none of this can be said about the other film that's being discussed here. A film so unoriginal that I'm surprised that it's not paying residuals to half of Hollywood. It's a story that is convoluted. Its physics are so questionable that it makes ludicrous speed plausible. Its characters are either incredibly stupid or incredibly unlikable, and several are actually both. Now, the film stars Tim Allen, for crying out loud, whose only claim to fame is playing famously pompous TV morons or voicing a space toy. And what's worse is that this film mocks science fiction nerds and geekdom as a whole, filled with cliches and stereotypes all over the place. Now, I know this film has a lot of fans, and I'm not going to try to convince you that you should hate it, but after you hear this discussion, you're going to have to love this film despite what you know about it. Now, I'm only here to show you why Silent Running is the better film, one that is more worthy of a place on your film shelf over Galaxy Quest. And that is it.
That is 3 minutes. And opening argument from Lobster.
All right. Released by DreamWorks Pictures on Christmas Day, 1999, Galaxy Quest is a loving spoof of Star Trek and its fandom that stands on its own as a worthy entry into the best sci-fi films of all time. Starring an ensemble cast headlined by Tim Allen, Sigourney Weaver, and Alan Rickman, written by David Howard and Robert Gordon, and directed by Dean Parisot, Galaxy Quest features designs by Stan Winston Studios and has received near universal acclaim from critics and fans. The film currently holds an 89% fresh tomatometer score on Rotten Tomatoes, and Galaxy Quest won the Hugo Award for Best Dramatic Presentation, the Nebula Award for Best Script, and was nominated for 10 Saturn Awards, including Best Science Fiction Film, Best Director, Best Actress for Weaver, and Best Supporting Actor for Alan Rickman, and won Best Actor for Tim Allen. In 2013, Galaxy Quest was voted the 7th best Star Trek film by fans at Creation Entertainment's Star Trek convention in Las Vegas, the only non-Star Trek film to make the list. On the commentary track for the 2009 Star Trek film, director J.J. Abrams praised Galaxy Quest as one of the best Star Trek movies ever made. And Star Trek Original Series co-star George Takei called Galaxy Quest a chillingly realistic documentary. Galaxy Quest is an intelligent satire with loads of heart, humor, action, and more than one tear-jerking moment. Although it pokes fun at Star Trek and sci-fi fans in particular, Galaxy Quest is never mean-spirited, and the film steers clear of the sophomoric humor and self-indulgence that typifies spoofs like Austin Powers and Spaceballs. Instead, telling a story that stands solidly among the best science fiction films. Despite its deep connection to Star Trek, Galaxy Quest doesn't alienate non-fans with incessant in-jokes. In fact, it works as an excellent entry-level film for non-sci-fi fans. Add brilliant casting, tons of character development, top-shelf production design, and a catchy theme, all of which make Galaxy Quest one of my personal favorite movies, and one that can easily go toe-to-toe with veteran sci-fi classics like Silent Running, and, as I'll argue, come out on top.
Oh boy.
You still had 30 seconds left. Oh, well. Yeah, I'm assuming you're over.
I yield my time to the moderator.
That's always a dangerous thing to yield to me. Okay. Well, our rundown was going to be recap each movie, but it does appear that on your individuals you have done a recap. Unless you would like to recap, Eric?
No, I think
we'll do a complete.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and do that. Right?
If you'd like to.
Okay. All right, so we'll go ahead and we'll start the recaps then.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Silent Running is set in a future where all plant life on Earth has been destroyed. The last remaining remnants have been relocated into space in domed ships stationed around Saturn. Now, there have been rumblings at this particular point in the story about the ships being recalled, and one of the crewmen named Freeman Lowell is excited about possibly reforesting the planet with these plants. And while the ships are being recalled back to Earth, they are given the instructions to destroy all the cargo in order to put the ships back to work once they get back. Now, this devastates the introverted Freeman, who is a horticulturist that spends most of his free time among the various plants. He pleads with his other fellow crewmates to not do this, and when it's clear that they give no craps about helping in saving the plants, he kills all three and takes over the ship with the help of 3 small robot assistants that are stationed on his ship. Now, he fakes a disaster in order to keep the ship out of the reaches of the rest of the squadron, and he's told them that he's lost control. And while they think that he is while he thinks that he's given them the slip, he uses his 2 remaining robots, as one of them has gotten destroyed during the ruse, to help him take care of the plants. But between the harrowing ride that they go through the rings of Saturn and the damage of yet another robot, things aren't going well for the ship. The plants are starting to die due to the lack of sunlight as the ship moves further away from the sun. Not only that, but the other ships have returned to save Lowell and are starting to figure out what's going on. In his last-ditch effort to save the plants, Freeman sets up a series of sun lamps throughout the ship, and it programs the last vital robot to take care of them before ejecting this plant dome into space. Then he destroys his ship as a means of keeping the dome from being discovered by the tailing ships. As he dies along with his broken robot, the dome survives the blast and is in excellent condition, and with the last robot watering the plants while the ship moves deeper into space. And from there, the credits roll.
Lobster?
All right, so here's my recap of Galaxy Quest. At a fan convention for the cult hit Galaxy Quest, a cheesy sci-fi show that's been off the air for 18 years, has-been actor Jason Nesmith, better known as Commander Peter Quincy Taggart of the NSEA Protector, is approached by a group of odd-sounding cosplayers. Claiming to be Thermians from the Klaatu Nebula, these fans abduct a hungover Nesmith to their replica of the Protector, where he believes he's acting out a fan fiction video in a Burbank basement. In reality, the literal-minded Thermians received Galaxy Quest's broadcast as gospel truth, modeled their entire society around its ideals, and made functioning versions of the show's futuristic technology. Engaged in a struggle for survival against the genocidal warlord Ceres, the Thermians believe that their last hope lies with Nesmith and the rest of the cast, including a sex symbol, a classically trained actor, a former child star, a burnout, and an extra. After a series of fits and starts, including a run-in with a rock monster, a group of alien miners, or is it miners, and an inside-out pig lizard, the crew of the Protector finally get into character and save the day, discovering that they're even more heroic than they pretended to be. That's Galaxy Quest.
And done only in half the time.
Well, I did
Which could be telling.
recap the entire movie.
That's true.
Yeah.
You get points for that.
Okay. Are we ready to move on with questions? Or are we going to attempt to recap each other's movies?
Well, I'm not going to recap the Galaxy Quest in as much as give my critique of it. If we're going to go down that direction,
The rules
yes.
I think we should.
But John Lobster, why don't you go ahead and start us off, if you don't mind?
Okay. Yeah.
Sure.
So I wrote just a brief kind of like synopsis / my review of Silent Running. Now, of course, I watched Silent Running to prepare for this debate. So here we go. Silent Running, 1972. Bruce Dern plays a hippie space monk who is the St. Francis / pariah of the American Airlines Starfleet. He feeds bunnies and has a hawk land on his arm twice while hippie folk songs play. After receiving orders to destroy his life's work, preserving Earth's last natural plant life, he massacres his crewmates, makes the ship's robots his new crew, and teaches them the way of the forest and poker. He slowly goes insane, commits suicide, and accomplishes nothing. Silent Running is a slog of a movie. Its flimsy plot barely enough to validate its 89-minute running time. The film is mired in its half-baked ideals. Its idealistic environmentalism is so awkwardly juxtaposed with its brutal nihilism that it never fully justifies either. The best acting comes from the mute robots, and the best moments fall short of the film's promise. There's a good film in there somewhere, but Silent Running fails the Arthouse Legends test.
Well, I am so glad my mic was on mute during that. Eric, would you like to recap Galaxy Quest?
I'm not going to recap it so much as to say that I was actually in theaters on Christmas Day in 2000 when Galaxy Quest came out. And I remember seeing this movie and laughing and having a good time in the theater with this movie. And then I decided to buy it on DVD. And I realized something when I watched it on DVD for the first time outside of theaters. I didn't laugh one bit. In fact, I found myself really not liking this movie on my second viewing. And part of it is the fact that I found that I didn't like anybody on the crew of the Protector. I found that a lot of the stuff that happens is very mean-spirited, both to other characters in the show and to the audience as well, who is both coddling to the supposedly trying to engage the nerd crowd, and instead is mocking them and labeling them with stereotypes. One of the worst of which is actually at Sigourney Weaver, who nearly 15 years prior was nominated for an Academy Award for playing the first genuinely awesome female action hero. And in this, she's relegated to showing her cleavage and repeating a computer. And not only is that, and that's meant to be both parody, but at the same time, it's also not parody because that's what she's doing in the movie itself. So, and that's just the insulting part about all this. This is shoddily directed. This is the actors are trying their best with this material, with the exception of Tim Allen, who's eating this up like cake, and is just completely just not working for this. I felt myself feeling bad for everybody involved, and that's not a movie that's that really has that really would be a testament to
Time.
science fiction.
Time.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. We've moved on to moderator questions. That would be me. Since we are giving questions first to, let's see, Eric did win the coin flip, so he
Yeah.
gets the questions first.
Well, I'll get a question, then Lobster will get a question. Well,
I'll alternate. Yes.
yes.
And
Okay.
I think I can kind of reply a little bit, right, to
Yes.
when Eric. Okay.
You'll get a rebuttal. So.
Right. Carry on.
They're paused. Okay, there we go. Okay, so silent run specific question here. So Eric, in the interviews for this movie, pretty much everybody considers Freeman Lowe to be a good man. Given that he did kill his crew, how can you defend the statement that the lead character of this movie is a good person?
I don't. In fact, I consider him an anti-hero. Freeman is not a good person. He is a human being who is worried for the sake of the trees, and this is something that the film openly brings up, is the fact that he has to make the decision. The lives of his fellow humans or the sake of all plant life. I mean, again, it's given that kind of weight. Which is more? And for him, he feels that this would be his only chance to protect the last remaining Earth plant life, and it's something that he has to wrestle with after he makes this particular decision. And again, it's one of those decisions that at the very end, we don't know if it's going to result in anything or not. It gives us kind of a hopeful element to it, but that hope is fleeting at best. And this is a movie that questions whether or not that such a sacrifice should be made. But it's also at the same time is also stating, should we even be put in this position? Should we have ever had our plant life sent into space because mankind just couldn't take care of it on Earth? And it's one of those that it's kind of asking that meta question while giving us a story that is dealing with the psychology of a broken man.
Yeah, this is one of the problems I really have with Silent Running, is that the script sets up the lead character in the movie to be like, they show him wandering barefoot through the meadow in his robe, and he's like this space hippie and stuff, but he's a fucking psychopath. He has gone crazy because, I mean, for whatever reason, he's been given this job. I don't know how he would even pass like the character moral fitness test to like be sent into space with these three other guys. Now the rest of his crew, they're jerks too, and like I'm like, I don't know who to root for because they're assholes to him. So I'm like, okay, well, he's clearly going to like get back at them somehow. But then I can't root for him either because he massacres his entire crew and just like wastes all the chances that he gets to actually like accomplish something. And I was baffled by the choices that this movie forces the characters to make. There's no backstory or explanation given, like why are they being put in this position? Like they say that, oh well, everywhere on Earth is 75 degrees, and okay, well then like if you can control the global temperature, surely you can figure out how to preserve some vegetation or animals or something, and you can travel through space and clear like the insane amount of product placement that happens in this movie on this spaceship. Like for a film with an environmentalist message, there's like so much product placement. Like you've got the money to figure this out. What are you doing? And again, it just baffles me completely that this is the situation that the characters are put in, and then it just makes for a flimsy story. Like, what other choice does he have? Yeah, what choice does he have? Like, there's no the writers don't give him a chance to like weigh the options or to even like convince his crew. Like they're just all assholes. They're not going to listen. So he doesn't try to contact the people on the other ships that are in like his equivalents in the same position to be like, we're not going to stand for this. Let's mutiny or something. And like that would have been to me a more interesting story. Like if they had said like, forget it, we're not going to follow these orders. We're going to go off on our own, and that's kind of like what they have to do. And maybe Starfleet has to track them down or something, and that's where the silent running thing comes in. But to me, it just doesn't make any sense.
May I answer that?
It's up to the moderator.
That's what I'm asking. Moderator, may I answer that?
Yeah, sure.
First off,
I'll allow it. You only have 1 minute to respond, but yes, you may answer that.
Very well. First off, the whole point of the matter is that human beings have grown not to care about plant life in general. You're right about the whole 75-degree thing, but again, that's the thing, is that they don't care about it. It's not something that's important to them. It's not, from the sound of it, something that is vital to their survival, so they have grown to not appreciate it at all. The reason why he doesn't get on the horn with the other ships, so to say, is because, first off, we've gotten to believe that practically no one agrees with him on this particular matter. And when he does try to speak to his own crew, they brush him off. There's no reason to believe that anyone else would believe him either. The last item I'll talk about was the product placement, is that that's kind of the point of what this movie is going for, which is this idea that corporations practically run the world, and that everything is corporate related. And on top of that, considering the fact that your main character's name is Nesmith, which makes me think of nepotism, you have nowhere to talk about with the word with Freeman in his name.
Time. Okay. Galaxy Quest question for Lobster. Plot point, of course. One of the basic premises of the movie is the unknown substance Omega-13. Given that the fictional show's fans, actors, and other people directly involved in the show had no idea what it is, how would an alien race come up with effects for it?
Lobster, can't hear you.
Okay, sorry, I was muted. So your question is, how did they make that logical jump to figure out what the Omega-13 was? Well, okay, so in the movie you're presented with two theories. One is that the Omega-13 is a matter destroyer, which can destroy everything in the galaxy in 13 seconds. And two, or it's a matter rearranger, which then sets the universe, resets back in time 13 seconds. And you're saying, well, how do the Thermians figure it out if the fans of the show don't know? It was an unresolved cliffhanger for the show. It's because the Thermians are optimists. They are eternal optimists, and they have taken the morals of this show to heart, and they're not going to create a weapon, although that they've basically created this protector to sort of protect them against Ceres. They're not going to create something that's going to wipe out all life. They value life and individuality and creative expression. So that's why they go with the interpretation of the Omega-13 that they go with. How they actually make it, I don't know. That's kind of one of the interesting things of the movie is, you know, they've gone through all this trouble, and they're amazing scientists. Maybe not the most brilliant tactical thinkers, but that to me has always been my own interpretation of how the Omega-13 ends up in the ship the way it is.
Rebuttal, if any?
Actually, I have quite a bit. You know, we're talking about the whole Omega-13 issue. Is what's not being addressed here is the fact that Thermians are so good at science that they actually got physics to match a TV show. That they actually got physics to be inspired by TV, because they were able to get physics to work around the concepts of a poorly made 80s television show to the point where you could hit buttons and make drives work just exactly as they do on the show. They could make just all the things that they could do on it. The matter rearranger, they might have got it to work exactly as it does on the show. The phasers, all of that. Again, there's no differences between what was on the show and what they were doing. So they got physics to work within the realms of a TV show. And that's amazing. That is truly amazing. And out of that, they come to Earth. They don't see the same technologies from their supposed inspiration as what they built there, and it doesn't dawn on them. It's just fascinating for me, just how great the scientists of the Thermians are.
Can I counter rebut? I will be very brief.
1 minute, yes, 1 minute counter rebut.
That's something that I really love about Galaxy Quest, though, is that, yes, they make everything from the TV show work, even the stuff that doesn't make any sense at all, like the chompy, crushy things. Like, why is this even here? Because it was in the show. And whether or not it's the show that has been kind of like prescient and anticipated technology that could be invented by brilliant alien scientists or not, we've seen things that have been used on Star Trek applied in the real world. I think cell phone technology is a great example. Your little communicator that flips open, but it's just such a fun aspect of the show or of the film that it's able to take these things on the show that make no sense whatsoever and make them a meaningful plot point in the movie.
That's one way of putting it.
Well, fair enough. Okay. Next up. Okay. Plot point for Silent Running. Freeman is a plant expert, but don't you think it's a little bit of a plot hole for that movie that he doesn't get that the plants aren't getting enough light?
Well, you also have to understand that he's also in the middle of a panic. Even the smartest person in the world, if they're involved in a panic, and considering that he just went through the rings of Saturn, there's a good reason to believe that. And on top of that, it's something that he wouldn't have come around. That the ships had been in this trajectory, on the other side of Saturn for so long that he just didn't think about it. It's one of those things that it's a slight one of those things that I can kind of understand someone kind of not getting, but I can also understand how, especially someone who, again, where he wasn't a professional horticulturist, he was just there to work on the ship. He wasn't there just to make sure that they were working. It's a hobby for him, so it's not like he went to school studying this. But that's just how I take it.
Rebut?
Yeah. So the idea of Freeman Lowell as sort of like Noah in his ark heading off into space. I mean, I guess he can become self-sufficient, right? Because he can grow everything that he needs in the dome, and that was actually kind of like a point of the original story that kind of got lost in the film adaptation. But I think you're right. Like the coming up, like, oh well, the plants aren't getting enough light. Like that's something that he should realize. But to the film's credit, like he comes up with a solution, which is just to put out some more light bulbs, and that'll take care of it. And then of course, like the film leaves it open ended, which like is this robot, this drone, just gonna stand there with his watering can and care for them while the dome drifts off into oblivion, maybe to be discovered by humanity in the future or some alien culture. We don't know, because that's where the movie ends. It's just kind of like, yep, see ya, have a good flight, off they go. And of course Lowell is dead and the other drone is dead, so you don't really know. But yeah, it's, to me, to make, like, after all of the like lofty ideas that this film kind of like throws out, but never like can pick which one it wants to go with, that's the conflict at the end. It just seems lame.
Rebut?
Yeah, 1 minute, go.
Okay. Quite honestly, that's one of the beautiful things about this movie is first off that it actually has ideas, something that I can't really say a whole lot about Galaxy Quest, but that also it's open-ended. We don't know if this is going to succeed or not. We kind of have a hope that it will succeed, and who knows what's out there. In the original story, there was an alien force. Who knows if it's there? But if there's not, then at least it's the attempt of him trying to save this plant life. Otherwise, it would have just been destroyed anyway. That for him, it was about what would he give for his cause, and his cause was to protect these plants, and he was willing to even give his own life in order to protect them. So that's kind of where I believe that the ending is meant to be concerning that particular concerning the story.
Okay. Galaxy Quest. Oh. For you, Lobster.
Yes.
Many classic movies create for their actors kind of an iconic role. Like The Godfather created Corleone, and yeah, you know what I mean. That the actor is pretty much always known for. You run into this actor on the street, you're like, oh, it's you. Given that the actors were already known for other things, and these are not the first movies. This is not the first movie you would think of these actors being in if you ran into them in public. How would you say this has classic characters?
Well, I think characters are one of the best things about Galaxy Quest, and I think whatever you say about the film, you have to agree that it is amazingly cast. Um, I think personally, a lot of times when I see these actors, that's the role that I think of. I'm not, my mind doesn't go Alan Rickman is Snape. It goes Alan Rickman is Dr. Lazarus in my mind, and that's just me. But I mean, let's talk about some of the characters in this movie. You've got Tim Allen, who perfectly embodies the panache and swagger of Taggart and the has-beenness of Nesmith. He rocks an awesome mullet and actually delivers a pretty nuanced performance. And Steven Spielberg, who was a producer on the movie, was on set the day that he has to admit to Mathesar that he's a fraud. And Steven Spielberg himself praised Tim Allen's performance. And of course, you've got Sigourney Weaver, who, like Eric said, is a bit of like a sexist stereotype, but I love the way the movie turns that on its head and kind of like points out, yeah, that's really dumb. And in reality, Gwen's character is much stronger than that, and ends up being what I think is really the leader of the crew. And you've got Alan Rickman, who's perfect. And let me just say this about Alan Rickman. Throughout the movie, he hates the line, "By Grabthar's hammer, you shall be avenged." He hates that line so much that you see like the bile, the gorge rise when he has to deliver it. And yet, at the end of the movie, that is an important emotional moment for his character. When he has to say that to Quillick, like I always tear up at that. How the hell did the movie do that? It just, it's amazing. And my personal favorite character is Tony Shalhoub. His character, Fred Kwan, Tech Sergeant Chen, he is the rock of the crew. I mean, he is the one who is just, he's chill when everybody else is freaking out. The ship's about to crash. And he's like, hey guys, they say, you gotta watch it, just FYI. So, I mean, to me, he's the rock of the crew. And I think like the original draft, it was going to be like maybe PG-13. They were going to make him a stoner. I think he's just zen. He's always got his bag of snacks. He knows where his head's at. He's cool. And of course, he gets a girl at the end, which is great. And again, like I could go on and on about Sam Rockwell, Daryl Mitchell, Enrico Colantoni is probably my second favorite character as Mathesar. And again, you've got Justin Long in his debut. Missy Pyle does a great job. It's Rainn Wilson. You've got Kevin McDonald from Kids in the Hall show up at the end. It's so well cast. And while you're right, it's maybe not like the most iconic movie of these characters' careers. Looking at some of the interviews I've seen, they all look back in it as one of their favorite roles that they have done.
Hey, Eric.
Okay, I'm gonna need more time on this one. But no, okay, seriously, these not only does this cast not live up to this movie, but in fact, it actually goes back and it hurts anything that most of what they did either before and some of what after they've done. Uh, Again, this is let's start off with Sigourney Weaver again. Okay, you say that she is she's the kind of takes the leader position. She literally is hanging on Nesmith almost the entire time, and when she's not hanging on him, she's screaming, "I quit!" And they throw in this romantic subplot that goes absolutely nowhere. And every time I look at them, even looking at each other, it gives me that kind of gag reflex that you're talking about with Alexander. And this is a movie that does have great actors in it. Alan Rickman is a great actor, but this movie does very little for him, and the character is unlikable. He's a drunk, and he's just all he does is whine and complain for the bulk of the movie. In fact, almost all of them complain and whine the entire movie long. And even when they start to become heroes, it's by accident. And it reminds me of another movie that had the same problem, which was Three Amigos, where you had three guys that were actors that were thought to be considered these legendary warfighters. They go to save a small village, and oh my goodness, the exact same thing happens in it. And on top of that, the villain here, Hopper, he looks like Hopper from A Bug's Life, which is another one where they have actors that are considered to be heroes, and they don't live up to it. And all of these are kind of redundant towards the movie that had 7 actual heroes going in to save a village, which is 7 samurai. It's all redundant. This is a redundant cast. It's redundant characters. No one in Galaxy Quest really has an arc that really works. Even with the Lothar's hammer thing, they had to force that in. It didn't fit naturally, and it didn't work. I won't say anything about Tech Sergeant Jim because I love Tony Shalhoub, and I think he did a good job with a really pathetic character. And the fact that he's the only one that doesn't say nasty things to the others. And we're not even going to get started with Tim Allen. I mean, yeah, this is the kind of garbage that he would go on to keep making with like Joe Somebody and the Santa Claus sequels, and just yeah, his entire career is going to be this is going to be a highlight in his career, not for the good either.
I just think you're kind of maybe missing the point a little bit with the characterization. The point is that they hate each other. They've been stuck together for 18 years, typecast into these roles and forced to appear at conventions and Circuit City openings in suburban Los Angeles. But it all pays off at the end when they take their curtain call together, because the whole movie is about them getting over those issues, and sometimes it's subtextual, and sometimes it's just like them clasping hands at the end of the movie and taking that final bow together.
A bow that happens over genocide, by the way.
Who's genocide?
The Tharmians. Their entire homeworld was destroyed. Only a handful of them lived. Yeah, but everyone's happy at the end because.
And it's because of them that handful survives.
And that handful survives is going to realize at some point, oh my goodness, they actually killed us with their ineptitude, and they don't have our technology. Let's go invade them and let's kill them all. And we would have deserved it. Thanks, Nesbitt.
I'm not sure I can make that leap.
Watch it again.
All right.
I think that's kind of like do the Ewoks die at the end of Return of the Jedi because of the Death Star exploding? That's kind of like that argument.
They don't. Okay, I'm bringing the hammer of the mod down. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Who's up next? Yes, this is a silent running question. Correct? Yes. With remakes and reimaginings being what seems to be going on in Hollywood nowadays for running being actually still relevant today as when it was released, why do you think there's no attempt at a remake?
Well, first off, I can just imagine how this would look on Fox News. Second off, this is definitely a '70s story. Uh, there is some there is some stuff that kind of has this particular vibe. Avatar definitely went in kind of that particular direction. Um, and on top of that, this is definitely a movie of its time. I don't think that there's a real good reason to do it. I don't think that there's an audience for it. Um, it's just one of those things. It's a quirky little film that uh, it's really just meant to be a quirky little film. I don't think that it needs to have a remake.
Lobster?
Well, Eric, I really have to say you're selling Silent Running pretty short there for somebody that's arguing in favor of the movie. I think that a Silent Running remake could work very well, but I think that probably having him kill his entire crew would hurt its chances. I think that you could definitely adapt it a la Ron Moore's Battlestar Galactica into an ongoing show. Uh, in fact, I see a lot of similarities with BSG and Silent Running in terms of finding a new life among the stars. I could point to maybe Earth 2 as another good example of an ongoing show that explored a similar territory. But I think you kind of have to leave the hokey hippie stuff and the disjointed environmentalism behind. And I think to its credit, Silent Running has inspired a lot of art in the future. I think we mentioned Mystery Science Theater 3000. We can mention Red Dwarf as another example, sort of like the last human scenario. And of course, you could talk about WALL-E as kind of a spiritual successor to the film, or Duncan Jones's Moon, which has a connection with Sam Rockwell. So I think you're kind of downplaying your own movie's potential there. But I think you have to fix what's wrong with Silent Running first, and get back to the core idea of, what at what cost are you going to preserve the natural life of Earth, or should it be at the cost of your own fellow crewmates?
Well, thank you for that great promotion of Silent Running and its inspirations in Battlestar Galactica, which not only did it inspire some of the ideas of that show, but it also gave them footage. Some of the shots from the original Battlestar Galactica was used in Silent Running. And yes, Wall-E and other movies have taken inspiration in it, but I think that's what Silent Running is really about, is inspiring. And I think that this is a film that, in a way, it needs that kind of that '70s mentality, that early '70s hope, in order to kind of give it that inspiration a little bit. And yeah, it is hokey, and yeah, and when I say that it's a small thing, it's not a bad thing. It's just that it's small. It doesn't have to have a big production reboot. It doesn't need. You're not going to get a performance that you Bruce Dern gave, and you need that kind of strong central performance. So to me, it is what it is, and that's where I believe that it should stay. If someone decides to make a reboot and it's a good reboot, then by all means, let's do it.
Got a rebuttal to the rebuttal there?
I
Or
I don't think that Bruce Stern's acting is going to be the thing that's going to preserve this film. I think if anything, like the aesthetic of the film, and just the way that the ship looks and all of that, like that's a cool basis for a potential like future edition of it. But you got to go a different direction than Bruce Stern with something like this. His character is just too manic.
Oh, but that's the beauty of it, is that you have Bruce Dern that's controlling all this, especially considering what Bruce Dern is known for. He is a very manic character. He loves to play outsiders and jerks and crazy, wild-eyed individuals, and he finds this way to kind of intensify it by internalizing it. And you see that in the scenes where he's running, driving around in the car, or he's trying to hold in his terror and his frustration when he's on the radio. Stuff like that is something that I think that he does very well, and it works extremely well for this. And if you don't have it, it's not the same.
Okay. All right. Question for Galaxy Quest related question, which originally this was going to be more visual, but my camera is having issues. But I did show you this before we started recording. I have this little 3D printed drone I've got here, which I was just looking around prior to doing this for 3D items to print and wave in front of the camera during the show. And so I found this drone, printed it, but I could not find a model of the Protector anywhere. I looked, no Protector. So if you argue that it's a superior movie, why have no fans stepped forward to build a nice Starship EAUC, whatever it is, Protector?
The number actually is NTE, which stands for Not the
Not
Enterprise.
the Enterprise, yes.
Well, actually, Galaxy Quest has a very dedicated and thriving fandom. I know that you can buy a model of the ship on Amazon. I've checked that out to see if it's something interesting. And one of the cool things about Galaxy Quest is it's a movie that has its own fandom already built in for it. So one of the things that you see in the movie is a Galaxy Quest convention. You see people there in costume, and it's got this whole backstory to it already. And you find out that Galaxy Quest fans are called Questarians. There doesn't seem to be the dispute over Trekker versus Trekkie.
They should have called questions.
Okay.
No
sure.
interruptions until he's done.
So, I mean, that's something that's really awesome about the movie. And actually, as I was sort of preparing for this debate, I was kind of like catching up with what's going on in Galaxy Quest fandom at the moment. Right now, there's a comic book, a Galaxy Quest comic, being published by IDW. It's the second run that they've done. They did one a few years ago called Galaxy Quest Global Warming. So now they've got one called Galaxy Quest The Journey Continues, currently being published by IDW Comics. There is a petition online currently on change.org to have DreamWorks sponsor a Galaxy Quest convention in 2017. And there's all sorts of fun Twitters and blogs and stuff that you can follow that relate to Galaxy Quest. So coming kind of at the dawn of the internet age when the movie was first released, if any of you have checked out the classic Galaxy Quest movie website, it's a fun retro style HTML, like flashing fonts and stuff. It's really fun. Actually, I remember when the movie came out, I started a Galaxy Quest fan site back on the web in 2000. So it's a fun movie, and it's something that whether you're a fan of Star Trek or sci-fi or just of the film itself, you can really connect with. And I'm surprised there's not a little Protector logo or something out there that you can 3D print, but maybe somebody will get on that.
All right, Eric?
Okay, so in regards to this, the reason why there's not a Protector type model is the fact that it's not as strong as this is not as strong a fan base as it wants itself to believe. And yeah, you could talk about change.org petitions for conventions and stuff, but to be honest, a Galaxy Quest a Galaxy Quest convention would be practically about as full as the convention that you see in the show, which, if you noticed in that parking lot, there's only like a handful of cars and possibly about maybe 2,000 people. Yeah, that's as many as you're probably going to get at a Galaxy Quest convention. This is, again, this is a mockery of Star Trek. This is clinging to Star Trek's coattails. It doesn't have anything original that it's going to say or do. In fact, it actually doesn't even have as much as Star Trek does, even in just the original series of the stories that they were trying to tell. This is not, this is making fun of a fan base, and it's nowhere near as strong a fan base in itself. So I that's the reason why you're not seeing as much Galaxy Quest stuff out there. And IDW will make comic books about everything, so that's not an excuse either.
Yeah, I think you're doing a disservice to fans of Galaxy Quest and fans of Star Trek for some reason, which is kind of weird, because I think the film works almost as a celebration of fandom, because I mean that's like one of the major themes in the film is that, well, the Thermians are the ultimate fans of Galaxy Quest and that they've modeled their entire culture around the ideals of the show. And in fact, it's the fans of the show that save the day in the end, and are able to shepherd the protector to safety, or the bridge crew to safety at the end. And thank God there weren't that many cars in the parking lot, because it kind of wipes them out as it comes down.
No kidding.
But I really think that you kind of sidestep the question about the fandom for silent running. So I'm kind of curious about what does the fandom for that film look like these days?
The fandom for Silent Running is a very small crowd, and it's not designed to be that kind of movie. This is not a movie that's built on fans. This is a film that's built on ideas that it's trying to convey to a smaller crowd. This is an art house film and was designed specifically with that in mind. Galaxy Quest was specifically meant to target Star Trek fans. It was meant to mock Star Trek fans at the same time. This is the ultimate kind of backhanded comments to Star Trek fans that you could ever imagine. This is, I don't disservice Star Trek fans, but again, look at how they present them in the movie. They live with their moms. They all they do is throw quotes at one another and put on cheesy costumes. They don't, they actually believe that the actors know about the ship and the ship's dimensions, and will pester them at odds and without any consideration, and perhaps they have no idea of that information. You do not see the Thermians themselves not only get they get out to the stars because of Galaxy Quest, but they also design buttons that allow countdowns to go all the way to 1 for just the sole purpose of their fandom. Again, they're using impractical stuff in space where it's a very unrelenting type thing. That'd be like if I were decide to build a boat based on what I saw from Pirates of the Caribbean, or the ship in the Goonies, for crying out loud. It would be a service of fandom, but it would also be a dangerous thing to put out there where it can actually hurt people. And we're surprised that they make enemies as soon as they step out of step off their planet. I mean, that's the thing. The Thermians had no right to being in space. They had no, they hurt themselves by following Galaxy Quest. They shouldn't be upset or have any inklings with the Earthlings. They themselves have no reason to be out there.
Okay, I think that brings us up to more general questions, plus questions from the audience. So, question for both of you. No rebuttal on this, just give your own personal view.
Okay.
Starting with Eric, How has your movie influenced other film or the arts in general since it came out?
Where did it not inspire other movies?
I
and
should
art?
give you a 3-minute limit on this just to keep
Nah.
it.
Actually, I've already mentioned most of them,
Yeah,
and what I didn't mention, Lobster was more than happy to.
Sure.
This inspired Battlestar Galactica. This inspired Star Wars. It inspired Star Trek. In fact, the director went on to do the visual effects for the original motion picture. This Alien took a lot of inspiration. Mystery Science Theater 3000. Wally. Again, these are all inspirations from this particular film. Even things such as Castaway, the Robert Zemeckis movie, took some of the inclinations from that movie as well. These are things that this is not just a science fiction film, a space film. This is about man dealing with the grasp of loneliness and being outside of his element. This is a bigger story than just that. So, yeah.
Okay, Lobster, same thing for you. How did Galaxy Quest influence other film or arts?
Mute.
Sorry about that. Well, I think in counting silent runnings influences, you also have to kind of say, yeah, but it influenced these other properties, and they also kind of explored the themes better than the film did. But with Galaxy Quest, you not only can you look at the other properties that it has influenced, but you can look at the influences on the film. And we've talked a lot about Star Trek, but I think it's important to mention some of the other influences on Galaxy Quest. You've got a lot of influences from Westworld, from Barbarella, from Beneath the Planet of the Apes. There's some Star Wars in there. You Are Our Last Hope. And it plays on all of these ideas and melds them in a way that's relevant to fans of sci-fi, but that if you're not, if you don't understand these references, it's not going to hurt you. You're going to enjoy the film nonetheless. And looking at films, I don't think there's really been a film that's captured the spirit of Galaxy Quest since it was made, something that exists both as an effective parody, but also kind of a love letter to the fans. If anything, say again?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's a good point. There is Firefly and Serenity. Oddly enough, David Newman, who does the music for Galaxy Quest and creates that awesome theme, did the music for Serenity as well. And I think maybe spiritually Tropic Thunder might occupy the same general vicinity as Galaxy Quest, although I don't think Tropic Thunder has as much heart. It just it goes more for the laughs and less for the feels. But still, again, that's also one of my favorite movies. So whatever that says about me. But yeah, I think certainly counting the influences on Galaxy Quest and the influences of Galaxy Quest. I think whenever I watch Star Trek Enterprise, I always think, okay, they've got the jumpsuits, the shuttle pod, they've got pretty much everything that Galaxy Quest has. They haven't quite figured out the transporter. Okay, that's the same. They always have to find something to fix their ship because they don't quite know, they aren't quite that good at steering it. So there's always that element as well.
And all of that goes back to the original Star Trek series. Sorry.
Side note for Lobster, when you finally saw the Valley Forge, when you were watching Silent Running,
yeah,
did you recognize it from BSG?
I recognized the plant domes, but I thought on BSG that the plant domes were only on top. They weren't kind of all the way around, but I could be wrong.
The same model as the Valley Forge. And then for the redo, it was a CGI version that was clearly inspired by.
Right. That's the one at in the first episode they leave the little girl on, right? They have to leave her behind. Her ship can't make the jump.
Yeah.
The red line.
And later on you see ones in the fleet that are that design, but yeah. Also known as, we built this model, we're going to use it. Okay. Via Genie in the chat. Okay, for both of you, are physics actually important if the rest of the movie is entertaining? Lobster, you go.
Well, I think I know how Eric's going to argue, but in terms of Galaxy Quest, to me, as long when a show or a movie sets up the rules by which that universe is going to operate, as long as it sticks to the rules that it gives you and doesn't make them up as it goes, I'm okay with that. To me, it doesn't have to be consistent with quote unquote real world physics in order for it to be of value, in order for it to be entertaining, as long as it sticks to the rules that it establishes, which the show to it or the film to its credit does. And it also sticks to the rules established by the show, even though sometimes they don't quite make sense. Like, again, the chompy crushy things or the omega-13, like how they were able to do that, I'm not quite sure. But the movie sticks to the rules that the show sets up. That causes part of its humor, but it also helps move the story along in that you get to see what those aspects of the show, which is fantasy, would kind of look like in real life. I don't think the Jello mold torpedo was something that existed on the show, but that's something that the Thermians came up with on their own and adapted for their use. So no, I don't think really that it's got to follow, your Neil deGrasse Tyson laws of physics that he likes to check off on Twitter, as long as it's internally consistent to the universe of the movie.
I agree 100% with Lobster. Now, with that said, the problem with Galaxy Quest isn't that it's consistent to its own physics. The problem here is the fact that we're supposed to believe that the world of Galaxy Quest is the real world. That they make it very clear that this is real, the Galaxy Quest show is fake. So that when they decide to play the real world card, and yet we're supposed to believe that within 20 years' time, and we're not even counting how long it took for the transmission to actually make it to the Thermians, that they were able to develop a working star drive. Not only that, but were able to create a Federation of their own, or Federation 1, but at least, be able to visit out among the stars and actually work with wormhole technology within 20 years. That they were also doing this while throwing in these really crazy, wacky things that only happened in the show, and they wrapped their entire physics around the show. It would be like if Einstein developed relativity around Star Trek. That don't work. That's where that falls apart with Galaxy Quest. Whereas with Silent Running, it sets up the physics. I don't know if the physics are 100% correct or not, but it's consistent within itself. It doesn't change where all of a sudden the Valley Forge has light speed or something. It doesn't happen like that. It stays consistent throughout the film. The physics that were designed started off the film the way it does, and it ends the way it does. And it doesn't change. Whereas with Galaxy Quest, it doesn't know if it wants to be fantasy-ish or if it wants to play the real-world card, and that's where it falls apart.
Yeah, if there's one problem I have with Galaxy Quest, it's how did the transmission get out there so fast that the Thermians were able to listen to it? I think it's because it went through the black hole and that sped it up so that by the time it got to them, it actually arrived before it left. But hey, relativity is a weird thing.
And then they didn't explain that very well.
No, and I don't think they have to, because it's a fun comedy film, and it's enough that it works, and you don't necessarily have to know how it works or how they were able to duplicate that technology, but the fact that they did is pretty fun, and it makes for a funny use of it. Now, to me, one of the best parts in the movie is when they use the digital conveyor to digitize the pig lizard. The pig lizard comes up inside out, just like the transporter malfunction in Star Trek: The Motion Picture. But later, once Fred figures out how to use it, it's actually used to very intelligent effect to bring up the rock monster to take care of the enemy soldiers, which is something that I don't think Star Trek was ever creative enough to do, to use the transporter in that way. So I have to give Galaxy Quest credit on both using the technology and using it in a fun and creative way.
All right. Next question. Well, this one should be very short, but from SP in the chat room. What actor in Silent Running could hold a candle to Sigourney Weaver? Personally, I think no one holds a candle to Sigourney Weaver when she's at her prime. But hey, go.
Okay, you're breaking. I'm sorry.
I think that would go to Eric first. So.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that question. You're breaking up. Sorry.
Oh, okay. What actor in Silent Running could hold a candle to Sigourney Weaver?
Well, if you were talking about consistency, then I would have to say that Freeman himself would be able to hold a candle to Sigourney Weaver. Now, again, we're talking about legacy here. Sigourney Weaver's in a class all of her own. But in this movie, I'll be honest, if this is the first time I saw Sigourney Weaver, I'd be rolling my eyes and just kind of throwing up my hands. I would have been shocked that she had done Alien or Aliens or any of the other films that she had done. To me, this is just that's the problem with this movie, is that it does a disservice to its gifted cast by making them do these ridiculous things, making them not appear to be very interesting or very nice, and so we're left with nothing to appreciate. Whereas with Freeman, at least we know where he's coming from, and we are allowed to not like him but be compelled by him, and so yeah, so it would be him almost practically by default.
Lopsy, you got anything for that?
I cannot get behind Bruce Stern's acting in this. He overacts worse than Shatner did in the original series. There is
Whoa.
no, and you know what? Maybe I could appreciate his acting more if the director could actually get the camera to focus correctly on him. But Douglas Trumbull should stick to doing special effects. He has no business behind a camera directing a picture. It just doesn't work on any level. And again, it goes to the pacing issues that the film has. There's not enough story to even justify the barely an hour and a half running time for the film. It could be a 40-minute TV episode, and that might still even be stretching it. So yeah, I just can't get behind that.
Okay, we're talking the director of Galaxy Quest. His next big movie after this, Fun with Dick and Jane, the movie that practically ended Jim Carrey's career. So
yeah, I'm not gonna defend that movie, but that's not what the debate's about.
But we're talking about Douglas Trumbull and Dean Pascal.
Yeah.
So
and his work on Silent Running was sorely lacking.
And Trumbull is going to be known for his work both before and after Silent Running. No one's going to be talking about Dean Pascal. But no, so yeah, go ahead and keep mocking him.
Kind of want to make this is the last question for tonight. Which, given that the music used in a movie is an big influence on how good you end up viewing a movie, and just in general how good a movie is, how does your film use music in a better way than your opponents? Lobster.
I love the Galaxy Quest theme that David Newman comes up with. I love that it takes kind of the funky pop 70s version or early 80s version that the TV show uses and actually like builds that into the show or into the film as like an actual, kind of epic score. I don't have anything against Joan Baez, but come on, those scenes of listening to the children playing in the meadow and him, playing with the hawk that's eating the bunny that he was just feeding. Like, what do you think happens in that little biodome? Like, the circle of life, those bunnies that he's feeding are getting eaten by that hawk. That's the only thing keeping their population in check and stopping them from devouring all of the plant life that he's so fervently trying to protect. I have such a hard time with folk music in like in a quote unquote realistic sci-fi movie.
Well, the score itself for Silent Running is definitely it's a minimalist type score. It doesn't try to overblow itself or create grand sweeping epic tomes such as the Galaxy Quest tried to do. This one, the Joan Baez songs are meant to kind of give kind of that kind of uh, yeah, hippie-ish type vibe to it. But if you don't like that, some fans of Silent Running, which is this indie band called 65 Days of sorry, let me get my notes out here quick. 65 Days of Static actually wrote their own score for Silent Running, which actually is pretty awesome. In fact, you can watch it for free on YouTube as of right now. And that score is pretty jamming. It's a pretty awesome indie rock score that they put to it. And so, like I said, if you don't like the folk song, you can get that other score for free, which is something I can't say for Galaxy Quest. If you find that that the score for Galaxy Quest is like I do, kind of jerking with the Jerry Goldsmith stuff, uh, you're stuck. You have no other score to go with.
All right. Closing arguments. Lobster, got anything to say on the way out? Besides unmuting yourself?
Don't forget our coin toss. I believe Eric is going to deliver his closing statement first.
Okay, I'll go first. All right, so I think I've pretty much shown that Silent Running is a film that is about ideas. It's a film that is trying to kind of get both at what it means for a world without our natural resources, a world where people are have to make those particular decisions over the extinction of a complete ecosystem over their fellow man. And it really does question. It doesn't make it a yes or no or a situation. You actually have to think about what it is that's going on here. This is a film that is aiming for something, and it has a legacy that behind it that extends far beyond the film's limits. It has inspired so much, and in fact, I would even go so far as to say is that it might have actually inspired Galaxy Quest a little bit in itself. That's something that you're not going to get to say about Galaxy Quest. It inspires nothing. It didn't inspire anything. It was meant as a spoof. It was meant to mock and to ridicule that stuff that came before it. It's nerd feed, and it is kind of pathetic in that way. But Silent Running does have these ideas. Silent Running is about these concepts, and when you come out of it, you might not agree with what the movie's saying, but you're going to have an idea. You're going to have an opinion, and I think that that's what this movie was aimed for and what it was trying to do. And that's the best thing I could ever say about a movie. A movie with ideas, even if you don't agree with them, is better than a movie that doesn't have ideas, no matter how much fun you may have with it.
All right. So, who does the audience think won this? There are.
I haven't given my final statement yet.
Yeah, it's lobsters.
Sorry. Not to interfere, but...
Setting these up? You haven't set them up yet?
Kent?
I'm not muted. Uh-oh.
You're not.
Okay, so...
Okay.
So can I go ahead and...
Glenn didn't hit the kill switch!
Hell, oh no!
All right,
Oh.
I'm going to go ahead and give my closing statement, if that's all right.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay,
Had a
okay.
malfunction.
All right, there's so much more that I can say about Galaxy Quest. We're kind of out of time, but let me try to put a a final knot on this. Silent running is a decent attempt, but it really falls short of its lofty ambition. It makes an argument, but unfortunately, the other side is, of course, silent. Earth is basically Club Med. It has bad food, but people want to go there. Should they have to die for that? Galaxy Quest, on the other hand, begins with a simplistic what-if premise, but becomes something far greater. And Galaxy Quest is truly the superior film. Director Dean Parasot said it best, the movie starts as a mockery, but ends as a celebration. It's a funny Valentine to the fans of science fiction, who, in the end, are the real heroes. It works on so many levels and can be enjoyed by sci-fi fans and non-fans of all ages. And it holds up well 15 years later. And Galaxy Quest is all about the fandom. The Thermians are Galaxy Quest's, the show's biggest fans. They've modeled their entire culture on the historical documents, and during their darkest time, they looked to this show for guidance and found comfort there. Who among us hasn't felt the similar way about a television or movie fandom? In the end, it's the fans who help save the day, and they're the real heroes. And notably, the actors also turn out to be heroes, proving what the fans knew all along. Galaxy Quest is critically lauded. It won the Hugo Award for Best Dramatic Presentation. And when the writers accepted the award, they were almost in tears because they were so pleased that the fans of the sci-fi community actually got it. That year it beat The Matrix, The Sixth Sense, Being John Malkovich, and Iron Giant to win that prize. Galaxy Quest actually also makes the Star Trek movie Curse work if you include it chronologically and put it between Insurrection and Nemesis, bad, good, bad, although I like Insurrection, which is another thing maybe that Eric and I don't have in common. But Galaxy Quest completely tops Silent Running in every conceivable category without trying to compare $1972 to $1999 in 2015. It performed better with critics and fans, won more awards, and has had a greater overall cultural impact. I don't know if you guys have seen the trailer for Con Man, the new Indiegogo project by Alan Tudyk and Nathan Fillion, but it's exploring the same thematic territories. Some sci-fi stars are dealing with their success or lack thereof after their show ended. I mentioned the Galaxy Quest comic book that continues to be put out, but perhaps the best review of Galaxy Quest that I can give comes from the movie's awesome retro website, which if you checked out back in 1999, you'll remember well, Travis Latka's Galaxy Quest page. It's accessible via the Wayback Machine, and I'm going to share it with you now. Here's the review. They did it right. The movie is dope. John Lobster out.
All right. Okay. All right. For anyone that wants to vote on who won this debate,
By all means, leave it in the comments section.
Leave it in the comments.
Yes.
You can hit us up on Twitter, on Google Plus or Facebook. Just, we're going to post this video here after it's done, and you can catch up with it if you weren't able to watch live. And we do look forward to hearing your reaction.
There will be plenty of places for you to say put your thoughts in. So, but I think if anything else, this was a very entertaining debate.
I certainly enjoyed it.
I did too.
Yes. And it was kept very civil. I appreciate the severity of the situation. It could have gone worse. It could have been bad.
Well, no one mentioned anyone's mother, so that's
yeah. So, all right. So, do we want to call it at this point?
All right, let's call it.
Let's call it.
Do we want to invite our engineer back to thank him and say
hi?
Hi?
Yeah, Chris, thank you so much for controlling the technology. Thanks.
Yes.
Happy to help. Sorry it was fighting with you guys so much.
Well, we'll figure it out.
We worked it out in the end.
That's what counts, right?
Yeah, but thank you. So, this is Kent.
This is the movie dude, Eric.
This is John Lobster, and that's Chris.
And Fiend.